Val Lewton is responsible for some of the creepiest films ever made. From Cat People to The Body Snatcher, he knows how to make people's skin crawl. Out of all Lewton's stellar films, I Walked with a Zombie is easily my favorite. It's about a nurse, played by Frances Dee, who's hired to come to the West Indies to take care of a wife of a plantation manager, played by Conway, who is suffering from a form of mental paralysis. While working on the plantation, Dee discovers that a certain number of people on the island practice voodoo, and she suspects that the wife's condition might be linked to it. The film does a fantastic job at creating an eerie atmosphere. Director Jacques Tourneur, who directed Cat People, creates a unique feeling that sometimes makes the viewer feel like they're dreaming. It helps create this sense of paranoia for the viewer because the main character is thrown off by how seemingly otherworldly the setting is, and she starts to question her own sanity. My favorite scene is when Frances Dee is walking with the wife through the fields. The suspense is brilliant. There's no music, only the audible natives in the distance, and they constantly come across grotesque voodoo idols that cause them to fret more. And then, once the tension hits its peak, they run into a zombie. Many people see the zombie as cheesy, but I personally think the zombie still holds up. Okay, it's not scary, but Boris Karloff and Frankenstein never made me scream, and I think it works. You see, zombies are not flesh-eating creatures. They originate from Haitian folklore from voodoo culture. They're people from poverty who are put into trances with drugs in order to be exploited for free labor. The trances would often imitate death, so locals would believe that the bodies of their loved ones would rise from the dead. The misconception came from the film Zombie 2, which was an Italian sequel to Dawn of the Dead. There, the flesh-eaters are specifically referred to as zombies, whereas in the Romero films, they're never actually called zombies. Now that my tangent is over, something I don't like about this film is the title, but that's not Lewton's fault. You see, when he worked for RKO, the studio wanted him to make horror movies to compete with Universal's horror films, so they would give him titles, but Lewton would have to come up with everything else. So they literally said, make a film called I Walked with a Zombie, and that was it. Lewton thought he was doomed until he hired Universal monster writer Curt Siodmak to write the screenplay. Siodmak is the man responsible for The Wolfman, Son of Dracula, The Invisible Man Returns, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, and a ton of other films. This film is more concerned with creeping you out than scaring you, and if you've seen my review on The Uninvited, you know how I feel about creepy versus scary. In my eyes, this is one of the creepiest films ever made. I find the Haitian zombie lore fascinating, and this film does a great job capitalizing on what made it so creepy. If you haven't seen this film, then stop listening to me and just go watch it. I think after you watch it, you'll agree that it's another one of the classic horror films from this time period.